I'm Joseph Staten, and I'm a senior creative director on the Microsoft publishing team and the writer for ReCore.
Devil gonna leave you. He's heading over yonder. Tell him that I told you, I told you, I told you.
First of all, it's been quite a while since we last heard from ReCore. I think it was announced last year, was it?
Yep.
And it's kind of gone quiet since then. Why such a kind of radio silence for so long?
Well, ReCore, we wanted to keep our powder dry, as they say, until we were closer to launch so that we could have a really nice, tightly packed group of announcements. Starting off at E3, all through the summer. It's the summer of ReCore. We'll be announcing all sorts of new features for ReCore until we launch on September 13th.
We spoke to Inafune in the presentation a little bit about inspiration, and he said it's Japanese anime type stuff, Miyazaki kind of things that he's tapped into, the Studio Ghibli stuff. As the writer, can you kind of flesh that out a little bit more?
Sure, I mean, not to speak for Inafune-san, but I certainly take the same sort of influence. But we also look at great fantasy and science fiction. You know, ReCore is set on a world called Far Eden, which is not Earth. So it definitely has larger-than-life rock formations and strange dungeons and old buildings and things that are more fantastical. So from a color and a character point of view, I think Miyazaki films are excellent references, but so are wonderful movies like Star Wars as well. Big sweeping vistas, big problems to solve, really memorable characters.
And obviously your characters are Jewel and Mac's the little kind of dog robot. There's a mention of other companions as well, I think specifically Seth. Can you tell us a bit about those other companions?
Sure, absolutely. So you start the game as Jewel with your one companion that you were paired with before the Far Eden mission. And that's Mac, the blue core in a dog frame. So the robots are called corebots. They have a core and a frame that goes around them. You can move the core around from different frames, but Mac starts off in a dog frame. Then in the story you meet Seth, who is a spider frame, the yellow core in the spider frame. And whereas Mac is a little bit adventurous and cheerful and always optimistic, Seth is kind of a worrywart, scaredy cat, Eeyore type character. Later on, you meet Duncan, the red core in a gorilla frame, and he's super tough and grumpy and stubborn. So each corebot has a very distinct personality that kind of matches the color of their core.
Yeah, the color affinity system's kind of a big thing in ReCore. Was that always part of the kind of design from the beginning, or did that come in later? Yeah,
from the very beginning. Some of the two most fundamental pieces of design were you can swap your core into different frames and change the way that they behave, the way they fight, and you want to match color in the game. We want it to be a really simple system at the top for players. I have red ammo in my gun, I'm fighting a red enemy, I have a red corebot, I'll do more damage, but it's deceptively simple. When you play the game, you'll realize, okay, the rules are pretty easy to understand, but how I combine them to be effective is very, very deep and challenging. It's very fun. So fans of Metroid, fans of Mega Man that are used to games with real meat, real intensity and challenge, I think they'll feel right at home in ReCore.
Is it fair to say then that it's not really a casual game, it's more for kind of veteran gamers who know their games inside out?
The way we like to talk about it is that it's a game that hopefully will appeal to a lot of people, that's easy to pick up and play, but if you want real mastery, if you want to complete all the challenges, it's going to take effort. But yeah, absolutely, we know the characters hopefully will appeal to maybe younger gamers, older gamers, everybody. Their first experience, we want it to be easy to play and then get progressively more challenging and fun.
And there's a leveling system in there as well as you progress. How does that work? Do your weapons kind of power up? Do you get to choose abilities, or is it kind of a linear system?
Well, we're going to talk more about the crafting and the progression later on in the summer, but the basic idea is Jewel starts off the game with most of her abilities. She, right off the bat, can double jump, air dash. She's got a rifle with one ammo type, one basically ability. And later on, she unlocks different ammo types in the same way that she meets different corebots. But right off the bat, as Jewel, we want you to feel agile and powerful and effective in the world.
So you mentioned Metroid as a kind of touchstone as well. Does that mean that certain abilities are granted during the story to grant you access, or do you kind of acquire those by leveling?
So that's a great question. The way it works in the game, say you start off very beginning, you might see a spider rail, those things that Seth can climb on in some of the beginning levels of the game, but because you don't have Seth, you won't be able to ride those rails. Or you might see a dungeon blocked by a rock fall that will require, Duncan to smash through. So much like Metroid, there'll be areas early on that you're exposed to that make you wonder and think about, like, how do I get there? What do I need to get into that mysterious spot? Works the exact same way in ReCore.
I mean, you said you weren't going to talk about crafting. I was going to ask that next. Is there anything you can tell us about crafting at this point, or is that strictly...
Yeah, I could talk a little bit about crafting. So the main way that we use crafting is with the core bots themselves. And the crafting system allows you to upgrade the core bots, make them more combat effective, but it also lets you customize them just the way you want to look. And we'll talk more about that later, but it's a really nice system that for fans of Mega Man, fans of Metroid, we hope it's just a great add-on or something unexpected that makes the whole experience better.
And in terms of kind of the world itself, we've seen mostly kind of desert and sandy kind of plains. What kind of variety are you going to have like later in the game? Are we going to see jungles and other kind of environments?
Well, I don't want to spoil all the different kinds of environments, but yes, the overworld, the dungeon, is really just the top level of the experience. Underneath the sands, and sometimes above the sands, there exist these more mysterious areas of Far Eden. Dark caverns, old abandoned facilities that look and feel a lot different than the harsh sand environment. Yeah.
It's quite a colourful looking game as well, but there's a kind of underpinning kind of darkness to it, that Earth has basically been destroyed and we're having to terraform this new planet. Do you kind of fear that's the way maybe things are going? I mean, is that...
Well, I don't know about that necessarily. I will say though that both Inafune and his team and Inafune-san and all the guys at Armature and us, we wanted to tell a game with a really great story that was like the game play in a certain way, which is you look at it and you think, oh, it's maybe a simple story, kind of charming and light, but the more you go into it, you realize Jewel is struggling with real problems as the last person on Earth. You know, what happened to her family, what happened to everybody else, and so the story isn't dark, but it is deep, and it touches on some themes which hopefully will grab people and be memorable.
Do you have a favourite of the core characters like Seth, Duncan and Mac?
Well, I love dogs. I'm a dog person, so I really like Mac, but I think my favorite at this point is Seth, because as a writer and character creator, it's pretty straightforward to make a dog charming. You know, they chase their tail, they scratch their ear, they yap around and whine. But to make a spider lovable, that's a little bit of a bigger challenge. So, we worked hard to make him a cute, interesting little creature, and that I think I like him the most just for that, because he was the hardest.
Yeah.
Your problem children are always your most favorite. So ReCore comes out September 13th of this year on Xbox One and Windows 10. It is actually the first Xbox Live Play Anywhere title. So you can buy it on Xbox, play it on Windows 10, buy it on Windows 10, play it on Xbox, vice versa. So hopefully a lot of people will be able to get it, enjoy it, and have fun.